Well, Lynn, welcome to Leadtail TV. It's so exciting to have you here.
It's always great to be with you, Brian.
Well, why don't we just jump right in? I am really excited to be talking with you about a lot of the different things that you have faced, not only in your background, but also where you're heading, what you're doing, and then the things that you're excited about. So we're going to jump all over the place here today. One of the things I want to talk about is just some of your driving force, where that came from, especially in your near past. You came from the news, from the media, and that created that created a lot of history, a lot of who you are here today, and the skill sets that you brought. When you look at that and you think about the shifts in your own career in the journalism, onset that we're facing here today, what were some of the things that you took away, and then what gave you the oomph to go, I'm going to go do this on my own?
Right? It even makes me scared when you say it, right? It was so scary at the time. It still continues to be scary. And that's how I knew it was the right thing to do. I had been a news anchor for 15 years. I had accomplished what I really set out to accomplish, which was to tell stories on a national platform. And when I began to see the landscape of journalism change, as many of us understand it to have changed throughout the last few years, I really knew that my impact, what I went into this for, wasn't as significant as it used to be. And I knew as a mom of two young boys, if I wasn't making the impact that I wanted to make, I needed to make a change. And it didn't come, flippantly. I didn't just flip on a switch and said, hey, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm a very type A OCD personality. So I planned for it. And I encourage anyone who's making a big leap in their life to bet on themselves, to make all of the plans necessary to execute it, and to let yourself be afraid and to do things outside of your comfort zone, because that's when really incredible things happen.
Well, you aren't the first in your family to do that. Your grandparents are first generation American, but your grandparents fled Ukraine in 1944 and then settled in Germany. Surely that had an impact on you as well.
It's my why, right? So all of us have a why did we go farther than we needed to go? My grit, tenacity, determination, all of that came from my family's history. So especially with everything that's going on right now, I'm calling upon it again and again. We still have family in Ukraine, but my grandparents fled in 44 during the communist invasion of Ukraine at that time. They ended up in Germany for 4 years. On the way, my father was born. Can you imagine having a newborn fleeing war? Yes, now we can, because we see the images of mothers and young children living it now. It's unimaginable, but yet it's right in front of us, and we should face it and understand the tenacity that it takes to really do that. And my father came to the United States when he was 4 years old, and he went on to do incredible things, but not without being told no a lot. He was actually told that he wasn't smart enough to go to college and that he should just become a carpenter like my grandfather. He ended up getting a master's at MIT and Cornell and a doctorate at Cornell. He went on to be a very successful executive and the assistant secretary of fossil energy. So if that doesn't show what you can overcome and what you can accomplish when you put your mind to it, when you have that grit and determination yourself, no matter what anybody else tells you. And I witnessed it from a young age. And I also found it to be a responsibility on my part to be very intentional with everything I did, because it was a true privilege that I got to live the life that I did. It's because of their sacrifices that I got to live the life that I did. So if I'm not doing something to make a positive impact, I'm disappointing their legacy. And that's something that's on the forefront of my mind all the time.
So you have this on your mind. Did it ever weigh so much on your mind that now I've got to become this thing, that I need to do something with my life? And now I want to get into news. How did the media draw you in? And then go, okay, now I'm going to take this to the top. I'm going to take this and run with it.
It wasn't even what I really set out to do right out of college. It's what I always wanted to do. I always joke that my kindergarten report card says Lynn asks too many questions. And there's a pretend newscasts that my sister and I did when I was 8 years old. And I anchored the college broadcasts. But I didn't want to go to a really small market. And I always say to people getting into this business, go fish where the fish are. Go learn from the people who are the best. You might be a secretary like I was for 4 years. You might not really ever get to do what you really want to do for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, but you're learning from the best so that when you get that shot and somebody notices you, you know how to deliver and you know how to play at the A game. And so I was an assistant. I started as a page, seating people at the Tonight Show, but I became an assistant and had great mentors and led to a producing job at the Today Show, which then led to some people going, oh, maybe we should have her try some things out on camera because her writing skills are great. They sent me to Hartford, Connecticut to do a little testing. And I was told by a news director there that I would never make it to a top 10 market in probably 10 years. Again, somebody telling you that you can't do something is not your stop sign. It's almost your go sign. It means that you just have to do it that much more. And it motivated me to, a year and a half later, be anchoring in the #1 market in New York City. And it wasn't something that I said to myself, I'm going to do this. I just kept pushing through every challenge that I had. And I did that in every job that I had in news. And it wasn't glamorous. I worked the overnight shift for 3 years where I was going into work at 10 o'clock at night and leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was not glamorous, but I was pushing through every single time. And that was what I have as my mantra now. It's just keep going. And in everything that you do in your life, your career, your impact, your purpose, it's not always going to be the shining ball. It's not always going to be fantastic. And you're always pushing through to get where you want to be, which is on the other end of whatever roadblock you're facing.
Well, one thing that I want to ask you before we move into what you're doing now, which is fascinating, and I know that's part of the magic that you now have taken and created. But before we go there, I want to talk about what was an experience like that you had to overcome in your career that really left a mark, that really created that, oh my God, this was hard, this was so challenging, but had I not gone through that, I would not be here today.
Gosh, there's been a number of them. It's hard to choose one, but I would say one that was very public was my time in Philadelphia. So after I went to Hartford, Connecticut, they gave me a consumer reporter job in Philadelphia. Mind you, that's a top 4 market, but I met with the news director and the assistant news director, who I'm still friends with to this day, and we just bonded. And they were like, I feel like I'm crazy to hire you, but I'm going to hire you. And if anything, they were going to get a really great writer, right? Like they were just taking a chance on my on-camera skills. But I had been producing at the Today Show, so I knew I could write for them. And I, on my first day of the job, was out doing, a pup reporter piece I was a consumer reporter. Like how bad could it get, right? And there was a stabbing at a high school I was the closest reporter to it. And they had to send me. And I got there and I just can't tell you how bad it was. I was stumbling over everything. I didn't know from anything how to tell a news story in a minute 30. And here I was in Philadelphia. I went back to the news station and everybody said that they had watched it over and over again. I heard whispers of it and I held my head up high and I just kept going. And it didn't just happen that once. It happened a few times and I had to just keep going and hold my head up high. There's a quote that Jerry Seinfeld, of all people, has said that I think about often is that in times of success, keep your head down, and in times of failure, keep your head up. And I went through about a year and a half there of a lot of embarrassing moments and a lot of embarrassing growth. But had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have the thick skin that I have now for when I fall on my face, because I do all the time. We're human. And if you say that you don't, then you're just lying. But I continue to fall on my face and I continue to pick myself up and dust myself off and just keep going.
And you did. And you did. Look at you now, with not the names or name dropping is the pinnacle of success, but the people that you have interviewed and the things that you have done. And With some of the time that you've spent with some great people, when you look at, Brene Brown, and you look at Dolly Parton, and, some of the, even just the moments that you've created, or not that you have created, but the moments that you have distilled down, and you are able to report on. And I don't know how that's possible to be able to sit there and actually take in those moments and still keep it together, and actually report out. But that right there is storytelling and a true skill. And so I want to commend you for that. And now taking that and actually gifting that to others to be able to tell their story. I'd love for you to talk about that and where you're at now. What made you want to then go out and do that for others?
Well, one of the things that was so important to me being a journalist was the impact of telling that story. And I talk a lot in my work about confidence. And I have 3 pillars of confidence, and one of them is purpose. And as a anchor, I felt like my purpose, there's a great responsibility to be able to bring that information to people so they felt more comforted or more fulfilled in what the information was. Like, I'm getting the information, so at least it makes me feel a little bit better. Having that purpose is what pushed me through some of those times that you're talking about when I was reporting on school shootings, when I saw the Japan tsunami happen live on air as I was an overnight anchor at MSNBC. Those are the moments where you have to find your purpose and really unleash that, because that's how you stay centered within it. Going into this next phase, when I started to feel like the impact that I was making in news maybe was more of a problem than a solution, my goal was to then find people who are making an impact and help them articulate that, whether it's in the media or maybe it's just in their big presentation. I had a meeting with somebody on Monday. Their mom bought a 1-hour consulting session with me at a silent auction. And it was for her daughter. And she just wanted to get some confidence and be better on video. And I was talking to her and I said, what is it that scares you when you go and you make some of these presentations? And she said, I just feel like I start rambling and going, and I'm really thinking about how this is going to go horribly wrong. And I said to her, I was like, I just paused and I said, so what do you think that is? And she's like, well, I guess that's probably manifesting my fears. And it's like, yes, when you are fearful of what's going to happen, you do manifest your fears. When you are visualizing the results that you want to get, then you are able to manifest your success. You know this, Brian, in business, the visualization and manifestation is something that is used by top entrepreneurs and top athletes because it works. And it's something that now when I'm able to have those kinds of conversations, whether it's with, a 25-year-old whose mom just wants her to have more confidence, or whether it's with the highest level of a CEO, to know that I can help them get some of that confidence that I know I didn't have when I first went into television. I fell on my face so many times. And to help see them unleash that impact on a platform, especially when I see it on television. When I see my clients on television, I'm like, this is better than when I was on television tenfold. And it's everything of my why now of what I do in my work.
Well, I can see it. I mean, and I get that. When it's almost like your children, like your babies are all grown up and they are shining on stage, and you get a chance to actually see the work actually perform itself, and you see that there's a process to this and that it can work, and now you can help others do what you did, and there's more to it. And so I want to ask you about that, because you're launching a new program that distills the fundamentals of media training for the digital media age. So how important is it that media training in the era of Zoom meetings and other digital communication come together right now?
I actually just posted something on my LinkedIn about an article Forbes did on why every single executive needs to have media training. Because the skills that you get in media training are applicable across every single platform. I had a client text me the other day that said he just interviewed for a board of directors job, and he knows that he got it because of some of the things that we worked on, which are telling me why I should care, put that in headline form, have that be the first thing out of your mouth. Get someone to like and then trust you within 30 seconds. I say all the time, you have 5 seconds to get someone to like you, 30 seconds to get someone to trust you. You want to get to it right out of the gate. We are a TikTok generation. Our attention spans are so short. Give me that information right away and then get to the meat. Tell me what it is that's the 3 to 5 takeaways of why I should care about this. One of the biggest mistakes I see even just high-level executives make is that they're trying to over-educate, over-inform, over-deliver. 3 to 5 takeaways is really the only thing people can take in when they are listening to your presentation or your media appearance. And so, those strategies that we talk about, my pillars of confidence that we talk about, how to talk in sound bites, how to look the part. Because if you aren't looking the part right now, it's not 2020 where everyone's like, oh yeah, it's funny, we see your dog in the background. No, we are all broadcasters. This is a job now that applies to each and every one of you because you are looking into a lens for 90% of your work now. And it's probably not going to change for a long time. And what feels so uncomfortable about that? You're not looking at another human being. Brian, you are human to human, right? You know how important that interaction is. When you don't have somebody's face on the other end of what you're saying, whether it's gestures or body language, you don't have that reassurance that you're so used to. So what I want you to do, and practice this today, everyone, picture a face when you are looking into that lens. I call that person an MTP, your most trusted person. Picture your most trusted person's face when you're looking into the camera. Talk to them. That helps you to talk through the lens rather than talking to the camera. It's a big difference. I want you to just practice that small thing and see whether or not you notice something different. If you do, honestly, tweet me, DM me. I love interacting with people and to see what works and what doesn't. But I guarantee you, if you try that one technique, you'll see a difference.
Wonderful. Okay, I may tweet you. And I'm also curious about how that translates to the boardroom, because this is more than just one-to-one. And I do love human to human, you know that. But when it takes on a boardroom situation, that's quite different. So how do you break that down for us?
On video, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I say video is the new boardroom because now executives are having to woo investors through their Zoom calls or through their teleconferences. They're having to communicate really important messages to their employees who don't have that sense of community that they used to have. So the stakes are high. If you're not able to do that through the lens, you are not going to be able to keep up as a leader. It's just a new resume box that you have had to add because video is the new boardroom. And the way that we want to be sure that people are focusing on that is those 3 to 5 takeaways so that you aren't trying to over deliver in what it is that you're saying into the lens, but that you are coming at it from a place of pure confidence. I talked about purpose when it comes to my pillars of confidence. The 2 other pieces of that are preparation, which is not memorization. It is not writing a script and then following it. Actually, that's the biggest mistake. Throw your script away, but spend so much time preparing on the topic so that any which way, however it can go, you know your stuff, so to speak. You are prepared for whatever will happen. That's the preparation piece. The purpose piece is why you're there. And then the promise piece. The biggest issue I find many of my clients have is they get in their own head. I'll have them on a media appearance and I'll literally pause it and I'll say, what are you thinking about right now? And they're like, oh, you're right. I was thinking about this, that I just stumbled the last soundbite. It is written all over your face when you're in your own head. The ability to get out of your head and just let it come out. It's what I'm doing right now. If I stopped about a stumble I had 5 minutes ago and I was still thinking about it, wondering whether or not your viewers are thinking, oh, whoa, she stumbled. She's a news anchor. She's not supposed to stumble. I would never be able to deliver it in this way. It is a difficult thing to overcome, but the first step in overcoming it is being aware of it. Brian, you talk about something that has been a game changer for me in business, but it's your saboteur. And you gave me an insight into my saboteur that I had never had before, that this is an actual breathing, living thing that you have to address and face. And that voice in your head, that's your saboteur. And giving full credit to Brian Kramer on that one. That's your saboteur. And allow that saboteur to be there, sit it down, name it, put it in the room and don't push it away, but control the amount of power it has over you. So being able to get out of your own way, get out of your own head, and be your authentic, genuine self is going to be game changing for you in the video, really new reality that we all live in.
Well, my saboteur should meet your saboteur for lunch sometime, and they can maybe even have drinks. And
I
that way
think our
they're both
saboteurs
out
would
of the
get
room.
hammered. Let's
But
go
at least
really
they're
mess
both
some
out of
things
the
up.
room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, we're living in a fast world now, where we're feeling like content has to be created more quickly. How do you feel about that? It feels like Instagram, TikTok, even LinkedIn, that there's so much content, there's so many things that need to be created all the time, almost every day. And so with what you're saying, and I'm not sure if this applies or not, you tell me, but with creating all this content and doing it so quickly, you don't have time to be as prepared as what you're talking about. That's what I make up in my head, but I may be wrong. I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing a TikTok, I say it's 15 seconds, 15 or 30 seconds. So you really are just being yourself. That's
Mm.
what I would say. Don't necessarily over prepare for your TikTok, over prepare for your presentation or for that deal you need to close with those big executives and those big investors. For a TikTok, for anything in social and for content in general, when you win in content is when you are you, your unique self. The biggest mistake I also see people make is that they're trying to create content. And the content is so forced that it doesn't even really matter what it is because I'm not invested in it. I don't know why it's unique to them. So, for example, I usually put in my calendar a couple of days a week to create some content to put out on TikTok or LinkedIn. Today, just hopped onto script. I gave two stories of somebody that I had experienced. It literally took me 30 seconds, 15 seconds each, because I was just myself and told the story of something that actually happened this week that was really impactful. So being astute to when something makes a difference. You have a meeting on Monday and then you took a note down. Is that valuable information for your audience? Make a 15-second TikTok about it and be yourself when you're doing it. I refuse on TikTok to do the little do, when you're like pointing at all those things, because that's not me. And just because it goes viral, I'm not going to pretend that that's me. If I started to do that is when I don't care how many followers I get, am not on brand. Authenticity has to be the only thing you're focused on when it comes to your brand. And really it's effectiveness with the audience, because there's no one else that's you. You will have zero competition. So make sure that you are shining in everything that you do content wise.
Oh, wow. I know your microphone's probably attached, so we can't drop mics right here. Um, you have an interesting TikTok feed, and that features on-camera hacks as well as mom fails. I love some of the I love all your mom stuff that you're doing. I've been, how I've been following you for a long time now, or it feels like a long time. So tell us how those two sides, the mom Lynn and the media Lynn, professional Lynn, intersect.
Yeah, I do that intentionally because I also call myself a working mom in progress. I work and seemingly I have this company where I'm helping people get on TV and be confident and be their best selves. And I feel like it would be disingenuous if I didn't show how, as a result of that, I drop a lot of balls and I
Mm.
am perfectly imperfect. And I want that. That's a part of my authenticity. And so, yeah, I'm going to show you how to show up as your best on camera. But I'm also going to tell you about I totally forgot my son's lunch like 6 times this year. And I have a post-it note on my refrigerator. And why do I keep doing this? Or how I don't understand all these holidays like Valentine's Day. And everyone goes next level for Valentine's Day. And I'm the mom that just is like, oh, hey, here's a ring pop. And everyone else is doing, Etsy crafts. And so I try and help people understand these two worlds where I'm seemingly showing you how to look your best, but I am encouraging you to show your worst as well, because that authenticity, as I said from the beginning, that's what's going to make you stand out and provide important content for people.
Wonderful. I know that that applies not only on just TikTok, but also in the professional seat. And I love that. I love that intersection about how we can be more, dare I say, human, to show the imperfections and those sides to ourselves in sitting in that executive chair, and how people can love you and like you and want to embrace you as a person or as a brand more when you show that side. How do you, I'd love to spend all day talking to you, but I'll make this our last question, which is, how do you show that imperfection in a brand, and how do you teach that to executives to show that side?
I find it to be the hardest thing for especially CEOs to embrace. And here's why. It's why I began working with CEOs. I most closely identified with the challenges they face. It's all on them. No matter where the mistake was made, the buck stops at the CEO's desk, the buck stops at the anchor's desk. Doesn't matter if the producers didn't have the video in or anything like that. If things go bad, it's on you. And you can't have a bad day. You cannot have a bad day as the leader. And everyone's looking to you when crisis happens. And you have to assure them that their calm is there and it's coming. That role is very overwhelming. So to say to a CEO, I want you to show your vulnerability. No, I can't be weak to my team. I can't have them see any chinks in the armor. And I say to them, it's not a weakness, it's a perceived weakness. And let me share with you one story on what I mean. You talked about Brene Brown. I was so honored to moderate a discussion with her at a conference. And we were backstage. She was preparing for the keynote. And I was totally fangirling out, but I couldn't ask her for a selfie because I saw her pre-stage strategy where she was just pacing back and forth. She was looking down. No pleasantries after the initial hellos. It was all focus. Get on stage and deliver. And she probably does a lot of visualization and manifestation as well. She killed it in the keynote. And I sat with her in the panel, and I said to her, you have just this ability to just light up a room. How do you do that? And she said, would you be surprised if I told you I'm totally an introvert? And at parties, I can't stand being around all these people. And I sort of go into the background and I close things off. And I was just like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Even the queen of vulnerability, who you would expect to share their vulnerabilities, you just can't imagine that that's the case. So it's a perceived weakness, but that's how she gets the standing ovations. So instead of an executive saying, I don't want to show my weakness, maybe allow them to embrace their perceived weakness. That's a part of their story that almost can inspire others to overcome something that they're dealing with. What if you sat with your group of executives and you said, I'm not going to lie to you guys, like, it is not my strong suit to do video. I could go into a room and kill this, but I've had to do some serious preparation and get my skills up, and I've done the work, and now I'm going to go do it. And that's something I want all of us to take away. I have stuff I want to overcome too. I did it, and I encourage you to think about something to overcome as well. That's almost an inspiration for your team, rather than saying, I'm scared to do video. It's a weakness of mine. So it's reframing what weakness means so you can turn it into a great asset of yours.
Wow. Wow, I can't think of a better place to end. That was wonderful. Reframe your weakness. That's so important. I hope everyone takes that. If they learned anything from everything here, is how to reframe the weakness and tell your own story. That wonderful. That's just the beginning of Lynn Smith. I promise you, go check her out at lynnsmithtv.com. We'll have everything in the show notes. Lynn, thank you so much for being here and sharing of yourself. I really appreciate you.
Oh, Brian, I appreciate you. And as you know, you've been a huge inspiration and influence in my own life as an entrepreneur. And I'm always grateful to you for that.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.